Learning is like a spiral. You always need to go back to your first year knowledge, second year knowledge, or even high school mathematical skills.
There are some subjects that I teach that could be the first time that they learn in the subject in their life. We tend to assume that they haven't got much prior knowledge because that's the first time that they're going to learn this subject.
He takes time to take students' questions and he makes sure to explain every aspect of everything he's teaching. He doesn't really assume that you know much more.
So I would like to start from what they have learned in their year 12, for example, some mathematical concepts. And then from there, I try to take them with me onto the subject matters.
I think he's giving a very good introduction to every topic, like introducing us to, for example, today, like viewing capacity, and then after that he's giving examples, and that is what makes the students like learning.
I like Dylan's teaching because he's very interactive with his students and he makes sure that everyone understands what the content is.
So I hope you understand the difference between critical state and peak, which we covered last week, right? If you remember the shear strength topic, if you remember the direct shear testing I demonstrated to you last time, we have this direct shear results coming out from the test as shear stress and the displacement. If you remember the direct shear test, and then we have this curve, increase in the shear displacement will increase the shear stress at the middle of the box. It comes to a peak value, and then with further and further shear displacement, it goes to critical state.
Students come from a huge variety of cultural backgrounds, from a huge variety of schools, all of different standards. And it's very easy to assume a certain level of knowledge and experience which they simply do not have.
Most people coming straight out of high school got no idea what a NAND gate, for example, is. This is stuff that's brand new to most of the students, and I think he's very aware of that.
You need to work out if there is a common base. If there isn't a common base, then at least you need to set the scene and say, in this particular situation, this is how things work.
So he steps through everything at a reasonable pace.
So one good approach to getting students on the same page as regards knowledge and experience is to start off with an overhead of an engineering disaster of some variety. And it will grab their attention, it'll make them think about it, we can discuss it for a few minutes. That will then lead into the lecture material and give a base to the lecture material. So this is a way to get a common base for everybody to start off with, so you don't have to assume any particular experience in the past.
The students are first years. Some of them have done physics, so they have a working knowledge of a lot of the things that we're going over, and some of them haven't done physics. So I have to be quite careful to try and make sure that everybody can come along with whatever we're talking about.
Well, to help us understand the topics covered, she draws upon real-life situations.
So one of the things I do is show applications for both. And another thing I do is I try and draw on their everyday experience. So what happens in a classroom, what happens when they close a door, what happens when they go ice skating.
Yes, she tries to make it interesting and engaging.
One of the interesting cases, a very common element that's used in many mechanical systems is a spring. And I don't know if you remember back to your childhood, if you had a slinky when you were children, or if you had spring activated toys in any way, you might have noticed something about a spring. And the thing about a spring is when you first extend a spring, it takes hardly any force. Then you extend a spring a bit more force. And as you extend the spring up to nearly its full extent, it takes a lot of force to extend it further. And so in a spring, the work done is variable. And it's variable by a very simple rule. It's just linear with the extension.
Many of the concepts that we're trying to learn are familiar to the students. They've learnt them before, but how do they remember all that they've learned? How can we build on that? How can we develop that? How can we make sure that the understanding is really thorough and deep?
So she builds on our prior knowledge and experience by, at the start of each lecture, she'll go back and sort of do a small example of what we learned the previous week.
And so we'll go back to where have they learned the concept before, and try and relate it to something that they already know about from their own experience.
Prior to this course, we completed maths last semester, so a lot of things are integrated into the problems.
So some of the concepts like that is integration and differentiation that comes into the later weeks for this course.
That involved the knowledge learned from, say, first year of statics, or how to calculate the deflection of a structure, or generally how the structure behave. All those knowledge are built in back in first and second years, and they applied it in more senior years. I built on students' prior knowledge by usually give them a test early in the semester, say week 1 or week 2, so that the students are pushed basically to study the previous material and prepare for the semester.
Apart from what you do in the classroom, there's lots of things a teacher can contribute that's important for learning. One of them is I always record my lectures, because I know not everybody can come to lectures.
She helps us to develop our understanding by providing a lot of other materials for us to use for revision. We have homework questions, and there's a lot of help provided.
So everything they need for week 1 is in a little folder called week 1. And the tutorial questions, the answers, and the homework questions, and the only thing they have to go and look for elsewhere is their web learns.
At the start of each lesson, each week we do a web learn that's related to the previous week's exercises, and at the start of each week she'll ask if we have any questions or we had any troubles with the web learns.
It's a very big class, it's hard to give individual feedback, but I have a web learn where they can self-mark. They do the questions and they get the answers back. They can do it again. They have up to 10 times to do the web learn so that they can practice until they're confident that they can get the answers. And so that's giving them feedback about how they're going, because they'll know if they can do the questions or not. So I think having web learns is a really good contribution to the student learning.